All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're diving deep, conducting a forensic analysis of a single powerful verse from the Quran. It's a verse that presents a real puzzle, a prophet who is meant to be infallible actually expressing fear. We're going to deconstruct the language, dig into the theology, and see if we can understand what's really going on here. Let's get into it. So, here's how we're going to break this all down. Our investigation is going to happen in 5 stages. First, we'll establish exactly what this puzzling fear is all about. Then, we'll become language detectives and explore the real meaning of companionship in this verse. After that, we'll tackle the nature of divine punishment itself, clear up a common myth about hell, and then finally, we'll put all the pieces together to solve the paradox. Okay, so first things first. Let's really set the stage and look at the core theological problem that this one line of scripture throws at us. And here it is. This is the verse at the absolute heart of our analysis. It's from Surah Maryam, verse 45. These are the words of Prophet Abraham speaking to his father, who was an idol worshiper. He says, "O my father, indeed I fear that a punishment from the Most Merciful will touch you, so you would be to Satan an ally." You can feel it, right? It's a plea, but it's also a heavy warning. And this is where the big question hits you. A central belief in Islamic theology is that prophets are infallible. They're protected from major error. They're secure in their own salvation. So, how can a prophet of Abraham's incredible stature be talking about fear of a punishment from God? Is he doubting? Is this a moment of weakness? This is the very question our source material sets out to resolve. To crack this puzzle, we have to put on our linguistic detective hats, because this is where it gets really fascinating. The key to this whole thing, according to the source analysis, is actually hidden in the specific Arabic words being used. So let's zoom in on that final phrase. So you would be to Satan an ally. The Arabic word used right there is waliyan. Now, this doesn't just mean a buddy or a friend. It's way more specific. It means a close associate, a protector, someone who actively follows and champions the path of another. Abraham is warning his father about becoming an active duty supporter of Satan's entire operation. Now, to get an even deeper understanding of waliyan, the source brings up a broader concept called mayat. It basically means companionship or the state of being with. And what's absolutely crucial here is that this is not some simple one-size-fits-all idea. The theology, as our source explains, breaks it down into 2 very, very different types. On one side, you've got companionship in creation, or takwini. Think of this as the involuntary, existential state of just being. Everything God created, prophets, you, me, even Satan himself, we all share this companionship. We just exist together in the same creation. But then, on the other side, you have companionship in action, or phili. This is totally different. This is voluntary. It's behavioral. It's about choosing to align your goals and your actions with someone else. So, here's the breakthrough point. When Abraham warns his father about becoming a waliyan to Satan, he's not talking about that universal state of just existing. No. He is warning him against willingly entering into a companionship in action, making the conscious choice to follow Satan's playbook, and making himself an ally in rebellion against God. Okay, so now we get the crime he's warning against, this chosen alliance with Satan. So let's look at the punishment itself. And you'll see this brings up its own really interesting paradox. Check out the specific wording Abraham uses. He doesn't just say a punishment from God. He says a punishment from the Most Merciful. Wait a second. How does punishment come from the ultimate source of mercy, Al-Rahman? The source text tells us this isn't just poetic phrasing. It's a statement with immense theological weight. The way the source explains this apparent contradiction is really powerful. It argues that when the punishment is said to come directly from the Most Merciful, it's actually meant to highlight just how severe the crime is. It's like you've turned your back so completely on mercy that mercy itself becomes the thing that punishes you. It means the person has reached a state of total rejection of grace. And to really illustrate the depth of this kind of divine punishment, the source material goes into some very specific, granular details about the different regions of hell, drawing from Islamic narrations. For example, the analysis talks about a place called Jub al-Huzn, which translates to the Well of Sorrows. This is described as a valley inside hell that is so terrible, hell itself supposedly asks God for protection from it. And get this. According to the narrations, this specific spot is reserved for people who recited the Qur'an not out of faith, but for show, for hypocrisy. It's a perfect example of that principle. The greater the mercy you were given and rejected, the more severe the consequence. You know, all this talk about hell naturally leads to another big theological question, a common idea that the source text is very careful to clarify. It's about who exactly has to pass through hell. So, is it true? Does the Qur'an actually say that every single person, believers included, has to first enter hell before they can get to paradise? It's a pretty common belief, and it comes from another specific verse, also in the same chapter, Surah Maryam. This is the verse right here. It says, "There is not one of you but will pass over it," where it is referring to hell. And it continues, "This is upon your Lord an inevitability decreed." I mean, on the surface, that sounds pretty final, doesn't it? But just like with our first verse, the real meaning is hidden in the nuance of a single word. The key Arabic verb here is wariduha, from the root word wurud. Now, our source does another forensic linguistic check and clarifies that wurud means to arrive at a place, to approach it, or to pass over it. It doesn't automatically mean to enter into it and suffer within it. That would be a totally different word, like dukhul. The meaning here completely depends on who is doing the arriving. So for the disbelievers, yeah, this wurud, our arrival, is a real entry into suffering and punishment. But for the believers, the source explains it's a totally different story. For them, it's a harmless passage over hell. Narrations say that for the righteous, the fire will become cool and safe, which echoes the description of the fire prophet Abraham himself was thrown into. So it's the same place, but two completely different realities depending on who you are. Okay, now we have all the pieces of the puzzle on the table. We've looked at the language of companionship, the nature of punishment, and the reality of passing over hell. Let's put it all together now and finally solve the paradox of the prophet's fear. So the logical conclusion unfolds in 4 really clear steps. 1, we start with our premise, Prophet Abraham is infallible, so he's not afraid for himself. 2, that means his fear has to be an expression of his deep mercy and concern for his father. 3, what's the specific thing he's afraid of? He's afraid his father will choose to become a waliyan, an active ally to Satan. And 4, what's the end result of that choice? Sharing in Satan's fate and his punishment. So the huge takeaway from all of this is that Abraham's fear isn't fear at all, not in the way we think of it. It's not a personal weakness or a lapse in faith. It is the active expression of his prophetic duty and his compassion. It's the pain a guide feels watching someone they love choose a path that leads to ruin. His fear is actually a product of his love. And this single line from the source material just perfectly captures the entire shift in perspective. After a deep forensic analysis, a verse that seems to be about a prophet's fear is revealed to be, at its very core, a profound statement about a prophet's mercy. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've seen how digging into the deep meaning of just 1 or 2 words, like walyan and wurud, can completely unlock a verse. It really makes you wonder, right? What other profound truths are just sitting there waiting for us if we just apply that same forensic lens to the text we think we already know?